Hello, this is a tutorial to show you the second step in our Symmetrical Type project, this time using Adobe Photoshop. So I'm in Photoshop. I need to start my new document by going File, New. And once I set it up in here, I'm going to call it Type. And I want this document to actually be 4 by 4 inches. And I'm going to keep it at a 300 resolution, RGB color, and transparent background. Once I hit OK, I want to just make sure I'm comfortable with the workspace, and I need to make sure I've reset my workspace, Window Workspace, Reset Essentials. That just kind of helps me get everything back where I wanted it to be. And I'm also going to go to Window, and I'm going to uncheck Application Frame. What that does is it lets me sort of slide my work around in my workspace and not have it linked to that big gray box. It lets me move things because eventually we're going to have 2 open documents for this assignment. I'm also going to double wide my tools, and I'm going to start by creating a background, a colorful background, and just do a little bit of painting with it. In this project, I request that you use a tablet just to get used to the feel of working with a tablet-based device. So I'm going to choose a color first in my color picker. I'm going to go with some different greens for this one. You want to stick to some sort of simplified color harmony, and I'm just going to fill in the background with a color. Now I'm going to ask you to make 3 new layers by clicking your new layer icon down here. You also there are many ways to create new layers. Just make sure that you have your background and then 3 separate layers so you can edit them individually. And we're just going to work with our paintbrush for a little bit. So remember, when you select your paintbrush, all your paintbrush settings will appear at the top. And you have lots of options in here. Lots of people load more brushes. You can create your own brushes, but we're just going to experiment with some of the brushes that are inside our default settings. And I'm going to choose some different shades of green, just a little darker. And I'm going to go with a really big brush. I just want to kind of texturize the background and make it sort of an abstract painting. So as you can see, I've got such a big brush that it just is adding this sort of textured layer. Okay, just giving it some spots. And there's no right or wrong way to do this. I just want some variation to the background. So that brush is 5,000. That's a little extreme, but I kind of like what happened here. This is a very experimental step. So I'm going to switch to layer 3 now. I'm going to change my color again. So I'm going to go yellow or green, something kind of in a gray-green range. And then I'm going to switch my brush again, something more like this, and I'm going to make it quite a bit smaller. And I'm just going to do some strokes, brush strokes around, kind of just sort of a painterly design, something like that. So keep it simple. Try not to just get really scribbly. We're just experimenting with a couple layers, and I'm going to do one more layer. This time I'll do more of a bluish green and a different brush again. Some of these are kind of fun, these little like leafy brushes, but I'm going to stick to more of these simple paint textured brushes. So I've got my next layer set, and I'm going to do another. Might even do this one more like a stamp, like a dot. And some right around here. Okay, so that's going to be my background. If I don't like one of these layers, I could always hide it and see how it looks without. If I don't want the whole layer, I can drag it to the mini trash can. And then I can also adjust the layer style. So if I want to change it to an overlay or lighten it, or if I want to change it to soft light, so I can really adjust in there. Multiply will make it darker. So I have a lot of choices within my layers separately as well. I think I'm going to keep mine all on normal. And now we're going to apply the different text lettering. So this is a type project, just like the one we did in Illustrator. I'm going to make sure I've stepped that over, nothing selected. Now I'm going to get my T-tool, and I'm just going to click once, and you'll notice once you use your T-tool, it's going to make a layer with a T, and as you type a letter, it will show up as that layer's name. So I'm going to type the letter A, and I'm going to make sure when you have your Move tool selected that your Auto Select and Show Transform controls are clicked on, or else you don't have really a way to enlarge. So I'm going to Shift Drag, make a nice big A, and I'm going to rotate this, hit Return, and I'm just going to put this sort of right in the corner just to make it almost look like a star as it starts to rotate. Now I could do something more to this. Since we're in Photoshop, I've got some options to edit the layer. So I'm going to go Layer, Layer Style. I'm going to go into Bevel and Emboss. And sometimes this can get a little bit kind of ridiculous. People do too much to it, but I'm just going to do a slight bevel and emboss, and I'm also going to just throw a little bit of a drop shadow on that A just to give some dimension down here, and then hit OK. Notice that all those effects are appearing in that layer as well. So now I'm going to get my T-tool again. I'm going to click another time and notice that there's a new layer again, and I'm going to do the letter N. And at this point, I really need to switch my font. I don't want to use the same font over and over again. So I'm going to go up to here and just kind of shop for something that's different, unique, that I can work with. Maybe I'll try this sort of Star Wars N. It's very blocky, which is fine. And I'm actually going to put it right against the edge and put another one in this corner, and I'm going to make this really, whoops, make sure I've got my Shift key down as I do that. Make this one really big, and on this layer, I'm going to modify the color slightly first. I can change the color up here. I'm just going to do a little bit of a lighter color, and I'm also going to change that layer to be transparent. So I'm going to go opaque, lower my opacity so it's see-through, just to kind of add another interesting element. Now I kind of want this back on top, so the nice thing about Photoshop is I can just drag the entire layer above, and now it's back on the top. Okay, so I have two letters. This one's duplicated. I'm going to do one more letter. And this one, I'll do an H. And I feel like I need some sort of script type style now, something kind of curvy and maybe just something a little softer to mess it up, or not mess it up, but change all of those square lines to something else. So I'm going to go in here and look for something kind of softer. And now I'm just going to rotate it a little bit. I'm going to attach it to this A, see how that looks. And then I'm going to Option Drag and create a few more just to give another element to it. This is really an abstract practice project, so there is no wrong or right way to do it. I'm going to do one more really big. Oops, I'm having a hard time with that corner there. Make sure I grab from the corner. So this one I'm going to pull all the way across, and I'm going to change the opacity on this layer so it's a bit softer again as well. Okay, so I feel like there's a lot of empty space around the outsides. I'm going to do something really simple. I'm going to go back to my brushes, make a new layer, and I'm just going to go with a really basic circle brush, hard-edged, and I'm going to get like a darker green, and I'm just going to throw in some dots. It's a little bit big, so I'm going to shrink it down a tad, and I'm just going to do some dots there and here. Really easy way to make a circle in Photoshop is to just use your brushes. I can also draw straight lines with the same effect, just a regular brush, and maybe I'll do straight line, almost looks like an N here. So it's little zigzags that I hand drew with my shift key down. So at this point, I think I'm going to stop working on it and show you guys the next step, which is how to do your rotation and turn it into that symmetrical design.